I've been having a hard time doing videos lately because everyone works different shifts, there's always someone sleeping, and I have to talk loud enough to where I can possibly wake people up, so I have to only have small windows of time to do videos. Anyway, this is my problem with the anarcho-capitalism. It defines property incorrectly. It is not consequentialist. It's not anarchy, and it's a form of neo-feudalism. So, for instance, it has liberty wrong. Liberty should be defined as increasing free action and choices as much as possible. The initiation of force has nothing to do with it. It has entirely to do with just increasing choices and freedom of action. Anarcho-capitalists define it as property. 100% private property, that's liberty, no matter how much that limits people's free actions or hurts society or hurts people in general. Private property is 100% what liberty is. Which that's wrong. That's not what liberty is at all. That's why they can see themselves as supporting the freest society imaginable, when in fact it's a very unfree society. So they're not consequentialists either. Some of them are, but most of them are not, which means they don't care if it turns out their system wouldn't help the most people or make the most people well off. Increasing well-being is not what they're after. They're after protecting property as much as possible and having a system which is so ridiculously based on property. And they bring up this whole, well, if everything's based on property, then everything is voluntary and no one's forcing anyone to do anything. Even though you're setting up a situation in which you have a huge lack of freedom, less free than you would be today. So that's why I bring up the point of aristocracy. In an anarcho-capitalist society, it seems like there would not be an anarchy at all. There would still be government functions. There'd still be prisons, police, military, but they would be directly owned by corporations and the rich. Roads would be owned by the rich. So it's sidewalks. So there'd be no protests. You can only have a protest in an anarcho-capitalist society if you can get one of the rich oligarchs to sign off on it. So the only time you can see a protest is if it doesn't upset any rich people, or if it's not against the whole system. So it'd be very difficult to see any system against the whole everything. For a more radical change, like democracy or something, because every time you try to set up some sort of pro-democracy protests on a sidewalk, private police would show up to evict you all the time. And given how extreme anarcho-capitalists are when it comes to property, they can consider it freedom for the private police to show up with guns and just kill all the protesters because they're on the rich person's property and they won't leave, so kill them all. So yeah, you'd pretty much have an anarcho-capitalist society where the rich and their private armies just murder anyone who tries to protest and won't immediately stop protesting. So, see what I mean by it not being free? But they would consider that absolute freedom, even though your private mercs are killing protesters who are trying to get democracy. Because it would be an extremely undemocratic society run by the wealthy and unelected CEOs. So, yeah, it would be a very totalitarian system, which is supposedly the most freest society on Earth. So, it's even in theory, anarcho-capitalism is totalitarian. And yeah, that's a thing. That's why I would not compare anarcho-capitalism to Somalia. I would compare it to Russia, modern day Russia, a society run by a small group of super rich people with only a sham government to make it maybe a pretense that it's not run by the rich. So anarcho-capitalists might set up a state, but that state would just be directly run by them. So anarcho-capitalism should not be seen as anarchy. It should be seen as the government being directly owned by rich people, rather than there being any kind of democracy. So anarcho-capitalism should stop being called anarcho-capitalism. I don't know what else to call it, but it's not anarchy at all, but rather just plutocracy. That's what it is. We should just call it plutocracy. It is plutocracy is a system in which the super rich and powerful people rule all of society. So like Hunger Games is a plutocracy. The rich just don't control everything. So yes, that's my last point is this. Anarcho-capitalism is not a free society. It is simply a plutocratic system in which the wealthy directly own and control everyone and everyone's lives. So yeah.